I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast, episode number 33. This one is with Rene McNeill. We talk about her going on a mission trip to the Czech Republic, kind of get into the details, what led her to do that, the work they do over there, that whole story. If you'd like to find out more about their mission trip, go to cokesbury.tv/impactworld. That's COKESBURY.tv/IMPACTWORLD. If you'd like to follow Renee's journey, follow her on Instagram at Music Row Rene, MUSICROWRENEE. Our sponsor this episode is a returning sponsor, Jackie's Dream. Jackie's Dream is the best soul food in Knoxville, Tennessee, and for my money, the best soul food in the country. Damn near the best food in the country. If you want to live the dream at Jackie's Dream, make sure to visit online at jackiesdreamcafe.com, or you can visit the restaurant at 1008 East Woodland Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37917. Again, you can get more information online, jackiesdreamcafe.com. Be sure to follow on Facebook for more up-to-date information. But we appreciate Jackie coming back on board as a sponsor and can't wait to get back to eat some delicious hot chicken. Without much further ado, here's the episode. There is no easy way to start this. I think that is started on at least 6 or 7 of these podcasts. Okay. I don't know. We'll just keep going. And sometimes I brain fart on how to get into it. What was the earliest age that you traveled outside the country?
Outside of the country for me would have been 4 years ago now.
Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
No,
okay.
It wasn't that long ago.
Okay.
I got a passport for no reason at all, probably about 10 years ago, because I just had this idea that I was going to need it. And I kept telling people, if nothing else, if I ever need to flee the country, I'm all set. And I just kind of held on to it and never really planned any trips, never really. I mean, I wanted to travel, but I just wanted to have it just in case. So it came in handy.
Same here. I got mine in 2010 and because I found a good deal on a trip to Paris.
Yeah.
And then I realized it was off season for Paris and everything was going to be closed. And I was like, oh, crap.
Whoops.
That doesn't fit. Okay, never mind. And I've only used it to drive into Canada.
Oh, there you go. Well, at least you've used it.
Yeah. Ish. Yeah. I was only in Canada for an hour because my cell phone wouldn't work and I couldn't find anything. And
so you turned around and came back?
So I went to Tim Hortons and got donuts and coffee.
Oh my goodness.
And had
That's
a weird interaction with the cashier at Tim Hortons. I was like,
okay.
I walked up and I was like, do you all take American cash? She was like, yeah, we'll give you back Canadian coin though. I was like, cool. And then I thought I could have just used a card. I'm sure a card is fine.
Yeah.
And she was like, I said, here's the weird thing. I said, coffee. And she was like, what would you like? I was like, black. She's like, what is it with you Americans and black coffee? And I thought about it later and I asked a buddy, I was like, I should have said, what, do you put maple syrup in it? And he said,
the answer might have been yes.
They actually do. I was like, oh God.
How much syrup do you want?
Yeah. But I was kind of bummed. I didn't get to, I'll say this because it's okay. I was really looking forward to buying a Cuban cigar or two.
Yeah.
There's literally a place called Cuban Cigars.
I've always been really fascinated with Vancouver. So.
I was in.
That's on the list somewhere to do.
Yeah. I will say, is Vancouver the one right above us?
It's the one to the like above Seattle, like straight
Okay.
up.
Then what is Ontario?
It's either Ontario or
Toronto.
Montreal. I think.
Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Is right above us. I found a cheap plane ticket to Toronto for here, cheaper than
go.
flying to like DC. Like it was
Oh wow.
$300.
Do you do? I'm totally gonna plug them right now. Do you do Scotch cheap flights?
Yes.
Love them.
Scotch cheap flights. It wasn't that. It was just on kayak.
Yeah.
Kayak.
That's awesome.
Kayak has a section. Here's. Oh God. I may send you down a bad rabbit hole. Kayak.com/explore.
Oh,
And you
okay.
put your home, airport, and dates, and it just populates the entire.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm always looking for stuff like that. Okay.
I flew to.
That's what I'm doing later today.
That's it.
For
You may be
hours.
cursing
For
me
hours
later.
on end.
You may be cursing me later.
Hours.
All right, I've bought 6 different plane tickets. Went to New York one time because I found a ticket for, I think it's $185 round trip.
Wow.
And I was
Good
like,
deal.
I'm going. I just bought it. And I was like, okay, I have no lodging. I don't care. I'll figure it out. And it was around Christmas time. I was like, this is perfect.
Oh, that's awesome.
This is perfect.
That's a great deal.
Yeah. But yeah, so I found, but yeah, I think it's Toronto was the one because I'm also trying to get to every baseball stadium. So the Blue Jays.
You're one of those.
Yeah, I know. I may have taken a road trip a year and a half ago and hit 3 different stadiums in
that's
3
awesome.
different cities.
That's awesome. No, that's cool.
Okay, so you didn't travel outside the country until 3 or 4 years ago.
So I guess this year will be my 4th time going. But about 4 years ago, I attend Cokesbury here in Knoxville for church. And I just went one Sunday and something flashed on a screen talking about Czech Republic trip coming up. And I was like, yep, that's me.
God.
that's going to be me. My father's mother was actually from Czechoslovakia.
Okay.
And my grandfather was in the war over there. And so he met her over there and brought her back. And so she struggled a lot because there were a lot of issues with the war and everything they had been through. And she passed away. I never got to meet her, but there's always kind of that history that's sitting there. And so when I saw there was this trip to the Czech Republic, and I was like, yes, that's me. That's my trip.
That's awesome.
And so I got the information. I signed up to go. And then I was like, oh my God, I do not even own luggage. So that was my first step. And then came all the questions. And so I literally was emailing this other woman who was going to go like every single day. Like, what do you pack? What do you take? What size luggage do you take? Do you take a small suitcase and a big suitcase? What do you take? And she was awesome and gave me this list. And so I kind of figured out what to take. And fortunately, over the years, have learned different things to not bother to take or to keep taking and that sort of thing.
Stuff it's better just to pick up over there.
Yep.
Do you have to get vaccines or anything going to Czech Republic?
So that was another thing I did too was I ran to the doctor and I was like, what do I need? So there's actually a website you can go on, the government website, and put in where you're traveling to, and it gives you any required vaccines or recommended vaccines.
Okay.
One of those I think is always tetanus. I think they basically tell you that for every trip. But another one, I think it was one of the Hep vaccines, I think. But it was only if you were going to be in like the outskirts, like really not city areas. Like if you were going to be drinking the water, it had something to do with the water. Okay. And so we were going to be, I'll tell you about it in a minute. But one of the areas we go to it's outside the city, and it's not the fanciest of places. So I actually did go ahead and get that one the first year. Yeah. And it, I guess, is good for a couple of years. So I haven't gotten that one. But I always do flu shot too, just because travel. Sometimes they won't give it to us. So I usually go at the end of August, early September. And sometimes they don't have it ready yet. They won't give it to you yet. But I've lucked out and like begged my doctor, like, please, can you just get a hold of one? Because it's a long trip. It's about a 14-hour flight to get from here to the Czech Republic. And so I'm a kind of a germ phobe. So I always do flu shot because, you're trapped on this plane with all these people and just my luck, I'm going to get next to somebody. And I did. I think the second year I went, I got next to this guy who was like coughing and sneezing the whole time. And I was just like, shoot me now. Like, I'm going to die on this plane of whatever he has. Like, but I always do flu shot just in case.
Okay. And you're tall.
I am. And I always,
God.
The trip that I go on is a mission trip to the Czech Republic. And so, obviously it's a mission trip and you're not splurging on these like glamorous seats. So what I do is because I lead the trip, I purchase all of our plane tickets.
Okay.
And I also, since I'm doing this quite frequently, I went ahead and did global entry this past year, which highly recommend.
I don't know what
so global entry is one of the things you can get through the government. It's like pre-check. So, and you get pre-check along with it, but global entry basically lets you come in and out of the country easier. So there's this huge long list of other countries that their airports are included. And so when you have it coming back in, instead of having to wait in line and go to a person, you literally just walk up to a kiosk, slide your fingerprints, and you're done. So it makes international travel so much easier. And pre-check is included with it. Okay. And so then if you have it and you buy someone else's tickets, they all have it included.
Oh, wow.
So I buy everyone's tickets and we do it that way. But what I do is just buy basic tickets for everyone. And then I tell them, I am 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
I will be upgrading my seats.
Yeah.
Please feel free to do so yourself if you would like.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay in your normal seat, that's your choice. But I can't. So I always do we usually end up doing a Delta to go over there because they usually have the best deal. But we usually end up on Delta and they have like the comfort and the thing. But this past year, we actually had 2 people that got upgraded to business class. So they got the bed seats, and I was beyond jealous of that. So I was like,
oh, man.
Just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Lucky you.
Shaking your fist at him.
Lucky you.
Lucky you eating your tiny bag of peanuts. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wave on your way in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely usually upgrade. We usually do from Knoxville. We usually do Knoxville to Atlanta, Atlanta to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Prague.
Okay.
This year we actually had this past year we got rerouted up to New York and did the straight connecting flight from New York to Prague. So no stopover, but
better or worse?
Worse because we ended up down in Atlanta for the original plan first, and then due to delays, had to get back up to New York and out from there, which would be fine if it was like 1 or 2 people, but I was hurting about 8 people.
Oh, man.
And so then it's like, well, do you have room for 8 people? And they're like, oh, we can put you all on different flights, and that doesn't work. So we got it all figured out though. So thankfully we're able
I didn't
to
even
make
take
that work.
that into account of you're having to manage other people.
Yeah,
if it's just you,
it's interesting hurting people.
Yeah,
and I do always usually end up with one other person at least who has never been on that kind of a flight before, never been out of the country, and so I try to be patient and nice, like people were with me. This is what we're gonna do now.
The student has become the master.
Yes, attempt to be, anyways.
Is there an average age for the person? Is it mainly older people or younger people?
I take anybody really that wants to go. So it goes, the trip itself is through Cokesbury, my home church. But we have people that come from Johnson City. We have people that come from Spruce Pine. We have people that come from just anywhere. I mean, really, and I just always tell people, I'll take anybody that just wants to go and help. And I think the trip is a great cultural experience. So I'm definitely open to taking like high schoolers or, anybody really that wants to go. And we do have some women that go almost every year that are in their 60s and 70s. And, you kind of adopt what you do for them a little bit. We do all public transportation when we're there. I cannot say enough about how amazing transportation is in Prague and around Prague.
Really?
The public transportation is great. It's clean. It's safe. It's super, super easy to figure out. And we use that. And sometimes there's, we've just learned you can't run to get on something because not everybody's going to get there. So, you just let it go and you catch the next one.
Yeah.
So, you just you work with what you have and who you have. So you just learn.
Oh man.
You start to see young people like take off for the one that's about to leave and you're like,
no,
not going to happen.
No.
So.
You start making up excuses. I don't think that's our bus. We'll wait on the next one.
No, yeah. Do not get on that tram.
I would have never guessed that they had great public transport.
So they have a metro, they have buses, they have a tram, and we take everything. We use everything while we're there. And you can get from their airport into Prague and outside of Prague, all on their public transportation.
Do they have like a universal pass?
They do.
Okay.
So you can get there and you can buy passes at the airport. Or you can buy them on some of the methods of transportation. And I always recommend, so we're there for about 9 days, and they have a week pass, but it actually ends up being cheaper for us to buy a monthly pass.
Okay.
And so we buy monthly passes for everybody and just include the cost in the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do a monthly pass, and then as we're leaving, we just like hand it off to random people we find in the airport. We're like, hey, you coming in? Like, here's a transportation pass for you. So,
nice.
We hand those off, or there are groups in both Johnson City and Cleveland that send people to Prague as well. And sometimes we'll see if they have a trip coming up, and we'll hand off any money, any passes, anything like that to them when we get back. So,
have you started a collection of money? You've got.
I have. So I keep one of everything because as we're recruiting the next year and starting to get a group the next year, I like for them to see what it looks like and get a good understanding of it before we go. So I try not to hang on to too much, but I usually try to keep one of everything. So they have both paper and coins.
Okay.
And so I keep at least one to show them so they can see it, they can feel it, they can get used to looking at what it looks like, because Czech money, they have paper money, but then they mainly use coins of small denomination.
Oh, okay.
So I can't even express to you how cheap things are in Prague. So they mainly use the smaller coins. So they have like a 1, a 2, a 5, a 10, a 20, and up from there.
And it's all cents. It's not
all cents. Yeah, it's all coins.
It's not dollars.
No, their dollars start, I believe, at 100.
Huh.
And some people will change them out for you, and some people will just look at you and tell you no. Like, they'll only take the smaller coins.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so you try to kind of break anything really quickly when you get there to get the smaller amounts.
Yeah. That's wild. See, I think about because I've seen some foreign bills and they look like art. So I think about them from like the art aspect.
Yeah,
of
they
like,
are. They're very beautiful. Their monetary, their money is very beautiful. And it should, the tricky part for me is the 1 and the 2, because I'm not used to having 2 cents.
Yeah.
So they're very similar size wise. So it's like, wait, I'm that person that has to stand there for a minute and just stare at it.
Yeah.
And be like, hang on, I'm going to give you the right thing, but you just got to give me a minute.
You said going in August or September. What's the weather like?
The weather is very similar to ours. So our fall is temperature wise is pretty much the same as their fall.
Okay.
The only difference may be they get a bit more of a winter. So if you were to go like right now, it's definitely a bit colder than it would be here. But otherwise, the weather is very similar. They get a very hot summer. And I highly recommend fall. Fall too, they do a lot of markets, like big outdoor markets. They do Christmas markets too, and all these different seasonal markets that are really cool to get to walk around and to see and to buy things from. So I highly recommend fall. It's just really nice out. I always tell people to take a light jacket just in case, because we do get a few days that are a little chilly, but their fall is really beautiful over there, and you can really get out and explore a lot.
It's almost like packing for San Francisco. You need to take a light jacket no matter what the time.
Yeah, and I always remind people too, it's Europe, so
Yeah.
they don't have air conditioners most places.
Oof. Yeah.
So, in a lot of the places you're exploring, like the castle and stuff like that, there's no central heater air, and
Yeah.
it's, whatever it is outside is whatever it is inside. So,
I know they
you just
make,
kind of have to keep that in mind. So,
and I know I'm a freak, and I know I would be made fun of being the typical American. I would have to wear shorts everywhere because I would die. Like in the summer, I would die.
yeah, no, they definitely do. I mean, it gets really hot over there in the summer.
That's fascinating because I always thought Prague was higher up than us, so I assumed that it would be more like a Michigan or something.
No, it's very, very similar to Tennessee weather. When we go, it's I keep a very close eye leading up to when we go, and it's always just relatively about the same.
Huh.
But again, colder winter, maybe even hotter summer. So
that's crazy.
Just again, no air conditioning in the Europe, so they're not big on that. So
San Francisco and Colorado are also not huge on air conditioning. Like whenever I've stayed in hotels in both, there was one I stayed at in Colorado that stayed in Denver, right downtown. The AC would not kick on until the door opened and somebody physically walked in. So the first time I'd left my windows open and I got hit with a heat rush because the sun had just been baking my room all day. Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me? What the hell? Like, it was the middle of June. I was like, it's warm outside.
Yeah.
Like, I need something, man. You're killing me.
Yeah. I usually do a trip to Jamaica every year, too.
Oh, yeah.
And where we stay, there's only air conditioning from 9 o'clock at night until 5 o'clock in the morning. And they would always make fun of me because I was the youngest one on the trip, that I was always in bed the earliest. Yeah. Oh, no. I was taking advantage of the air conditioning. If the air was on, I was going to be in that room. So.
Oh, my God. Well, but at least there you expect it.
Yeah.
I think when I was in Denver or San Francisco, it was at conferences. I was trying to be professional and trying to dress nice. And I was like, nope. Okay, Jamaica. How many trips did you make to Prague? This will be your fourth?
This fall will be my fourth trip.
Okay. Have you gone to any other places? You mentioned Jamaica.
Yeah. Other than that, I really haven't explored much. So that's kind of one of my goals for this year is to go somewhere new to get different stamps on the passport, because my passport looks like I've only ever been to Amsterdam, because you always go there before Prague.
Oh, you like to party. Oh, I see. The only problem so do you actually have physical stamps in your passport?
I do.
When I went to Canada, they just scanned
There's a lot of
it.
people now. Yeah, a lot of people now don't get them. And we actually, since last year, we did get rerouted to New York and went straight to Prague. We actually finally got the Prague stamp.
Oh,
and some people weren't giving it and some people were. So we were watching to see which line to get in where they were actually stamping. Yeah. So we made sure to get the actual stamp. I know, no, I need credit. I need proof I have been here. So.
Oh my God.
I love it. But I'm kind of bummed because I have to renew mine this year.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Oh man, I got to start over.
Yeah, I'm debating. See, mine runs out in 2020, and I'm like, I have to use it for real before it expires. But then also, I don't want to invest too much because it's like then it expires and I get a new one, and we
have to be careful because like when we go to Europe, you have to have at least 3 months leeway before your passport expires.
Oh, really?
And they really like 6 months. The minimum is 3 though. And if you're going to go and your passport expires in like 2 months, they won't let you go. They won't let you.
I need to write that down.
Note to self. Yeah. You have to really pay attention to the expiration date when you are going to be traveling over there.
That's okay. I guess because they don't want you getting stuck or delayed or something and not being able.
Yeah. So you have to have minimum of 3 months and they really like 6. So
that's one of those. It's a struggle with stuff like that because growing up in the South, to where it's like, oh, you're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine.
You'll be fine.
It's one of those things. It's like, oh, we see that you've got it. This expired 2 days ago. You're fine.
Yeah. I actually had someone this past year though that had to pay that exorbitant rush fee for theirs because they didn't realize that. And the last second realized that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That it expired in a couple months.
3 to 6.
3 to 6 months.
I'm literally making good podcasting here. I'm making notes. Was the Jamaica okay? So Prague, Jamaica, was that more for fun or was
No,
that?
Jamaica was a mission trip as well.
Okay.
There's this really cool organization down there called American Caribbean Experience, and it's a couple out of Atlanta that run it, and they do a lot of small business investments. So they
Okay.
find farmers to invest, and they have a woman who makes natural products, and they've kind of invested in her business, and
Right.
it's kind of more to help the people in the more poverty-stricken areas of Jamaica, which is a large portion of Jamaica, to really not just give them help, but to actually teach them how to help themselves. And so they
Okay.
have some brothers. They were having issues with children who were getting raped on school buses or just not making it to school
God.
when they got on buses. So they found these brothers who could drive and had their license. And so they invested in them and bought them some buses.
Okay.
And so now these private buses go and pick kids up and get them to school in this area. And then during the day, they go and run like tourist tours and stuff like that to make money. And then
Okay.
they go back and pick the kids back up and take the kids back home. And so they just find different people like that to really invest in. And they've got some farms, and they're, I think, soon going to start. They found this old abandoned chocolate factory, and so they were going to start that back up and, pay some people to come in and learn how to run it. And
I'm happy to go be a taste tester.
you're going to volunteer.
Oh, volunteer as taste tester.
But yeah, and so they have one young guy who is really interested in beekeeping. So they brought people down from the U.S. to teach him
Okay.
how to do beekeeping. And so then they also bought this old hotel that was kind of falling apart and have restored it. And so they use
Wow.
the top part for when people come to help them on mission trips and stuff. And they stay in one part of it. And then the other is always open as an actual running hotel.
That's awesome.
And so they will feed into the community and give some of these families who don't have food these gardening boxes. And so they have to show that they're taking care of them. And if they don't tend them or do anything, they come and take them back. But if
Okay.
they actually are growing fruits and vegetables, they buy those back for the hotel.
Okay.
And so they kind of keep this like cyclical small business plans, like a lot of them kind of running and
to make it sustaining.
Yeah, to make it more
over the long
sustainable.
time.
And it's not just like, here, let's help you,
Yeah.
and then you need help again in 5 months. But more
Yeah.
so, let's teach you how to kind of start this business. And so
grow-
it's
yeah.
interesting. It's a really cool experience. I will say, when I went to Jamaica last year, I had never seen poverty like that. Like
Yeah.
that was definitely an experience for me.
I've had friends that have gone down there on vacation or whatever, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you get told quickly,
Like, don't leave.
don't
Yeah.
leave, because it gets bad really
Yeah.
quick." And one friend actually started walking down a beach, and got to a certain point, and some dude tried to sell him like a 3-pound bag of weed or something, and he looked at it and was like, it looked like just grass clippings. He's like, I think I need to turn. I think this is the sign
This is
for
where I
me to
should turn
turn
back around.
turn around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's once you leave those, it's crazy though. When you arrive in the airport and you're surrounded by those resorts and everything looks so nice and shiny, and then you get on a bus and you start driving, and
Yeah.
like 5 miles away, it's people just living in tents, and
Yeah.
it's crazy just the difference. And I asked while I was there if a lot of those resorts and stuff give back to the communities in any way, and a lot of them do. They give to like the schools, more so like the
Okay.
educational type stuff.
Yeah.
And they help a little bit, but man, we were just in areas where people are just living in tents, and they're using the bathroom in the hole in the yard, and it's really rough. Like,
Yeah.
I had never really experienced that. And we worked with a nursing home down there. There's a nursing home they work with, and they had initially started by giving them things like radios and slippers and stuff, but the people who were taking care of them were like stealing those things and taking them home. So they realize we can't give these people something. So what they do is they give them like experiences. So they go pick
Okay.
them up like twice a week. They'll give them in, like they'll do like shaves and haircuts for the men, and they'll put them all on a bus and take them to the beach for a couple hours. And so we did that, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And, for them, that's just like, like this great day to be able to just get out, because if you can imagine what a nursing home in poverty is like, it's
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
Like, it was
Yeah.
definitely out of my comfort zone.
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was an experience. And But it was cool to get to do that with them. And so they give back in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
And it's just kind of a cool experience to go down there for a week and do a lot of different things. And we had a day off, and we went up into the mountains, where the Blue Mountains, where they have all the coffee plantations.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm telling you, you have not had coffee until you've had it off the side of a mountain in Jamaica.
Yeah.
And
A friend of mine is from El Salvador and owns a coffee plantation farm, whatever they're called. And he brought me back some from his last trip. I was like, yeah, keep doing that, man. I'll keep taking any coffee. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
He took a lot of drone footage and photos, and it was amazing.
Oh, wow.
But he said the same thing, like El Salvador is kind of the same way. Like you get outside certain areas.
It's just night and day.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah. Which, we have that here a bit in the States, but it's
true.
It's amped up to 11 when you get in those areas.
It's funny, the 2 trips that I do, mostly like Jamaica and Prague, if you tell someone like, oh, I'm going on a mission trip to Prague, they're like, seriously? Like, because I think it's all fancy. It's this beautiful European city, which it is, but it's like Jamaica, you're in like the touristy area and then you're not. So.
Yeah. So have you only been to Jamaica the one time?
One time. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before these types of overseas mission trips, had you been doing stuff like that here in the States, or
little things here and there?
Okay.
I love in Knoxville, there's the Volunteer Knoxville organization, and they're great for being able to find different things, ways you can help. And I was fortunate to work for a company too that had like a volunteer day and was very big on supporting that. The church that I go to, Cokesbury, does a lot of outreach, and they have something called Manna House. And it's kind of a food pantry, and they also help people getting rides to doctor's appointments, and they do a lot of work with the homeless, and but they also have a program that I think is really great, and it's they kind of started realizing, we have all these people coming in, getting food, getting help, but we're not really doing anything to like help them sustain that in any way. It's just a constant cycle of coming back for help. And so they kind of set up this program where if you were going to come and get help, you kind of had to do this little interview with people too. And you kind of had to say like, this is why I need help. And they found out that, by doing this, they were finding out like maybe it's like the lack of a car, or it's, I need recovery help in some way, or it's drugs, or it's alcohol, or it's this, or it's that. And they were starting to find that if they, actually spent more time with these people, that they could get to the root of what was causing the constant cycle of needing help.
Right.
And so they've started to do more work in outreach and actually just trying to help with these issues instead of just handing out. So kind of like the model in Jamaica, it's a little bit more about like, how can we fix the problem instead of just constantly handing out. So.
Worry more about not just feeding them today, but
it's how is it just something like, is it lack of transportation, is it like I'm totally willing to work and get a job, I have no way to get there, and that's what's stopping me from being able to,
or I
like,
just need
be
a physical ID, but I can't go get an ID,
stuff like that. Just, and you realize it's really sad because you realize sometimes that it's like the smallest little thing that's just totally detouring this person's life and changing their way of living. And so they have a really good program set up, and I think they're actually going to do more in the future with working with some of the people that work with homeless in the Knoxville area. And they're even talking about maybe some sort of welcome center actually at Cokesbury that helps out a little bit more in that area too. So
is Cokesbury the one down near Pellissippi Parkway?
Yeah, and there's 2 sides. There's one that looks like a church on the left, and that's where they hold the traditional service. And then on the right, it looks like a warehouse, and that's where they hold the contemporary service.
I have installed signs at the one on the right like 15 years ago.
Really?
Went down there. One of the companies I was working for, they needed somebody to install signage. So I went down there and I was like, this is so weird. Like, because you're right. It looks like a furniture factory warehouse.
And you know what? They keep it that way. They keep it very almost like non-denominational looking. Like, it's just, it doesn't really have that feeling of a church. And they kind of want that because it brings in people who would never in a million years go to church.
Right.
It's, I think when you walk in, like I don't even think you see crosses anywhere or like anything that really denotes this is a church. On Thursdays, they have a huge recovery program.
Okay.
And so I think it really helps with that too, because it just feels like a more kind of general place for people to come. They do a ton of recovery. They have a lot of people that come. They give them dinner.
Yeah.
They have like special groups you can go into for whatever addiction or issue you might have, and hold a service there on Thursday nights. But I think it helps with that. I think it makes it just kind of a little more open to anybody who might be interested.
A little more low impact, a little more low key.
No pressure. Like I think that's, there's a lot of who wants to walk into like a big church for the first time and have that pressure of
as someone who I've had this discussion a lot with a few of my friends who are more traditional Christian. I'm like, when I grew up, it was about what your clothes look like.
Right.
And showing up to church.
Right.
It wasn't about anything else. It was about the clothes.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't. Yeah. Yeah. Although I will say some of this stuff now where I'm seeing like people in a tank top and shorts. I'm like, all right, man, come on.
You see a little bit of everything these days.
You're taking it a little bit too
you
extreme.
really do.
You're taking it a little too extreme, man.
Yeah.
But
I see some people sometimes in like workout clothes. Like you can tell like that or their work clothes, like scrubs or something.
Yeah.
And you kind of like that. They feel comfortable enough. Like, I can just stop in here on my way to work or after work and not be judged.
Yeah. Not to make fun of women, but it seems like the yoga pants are. I can't remember where I was at the other day.
It's the norm.
I was somewhere where it was way not out of place, and I was like, the top doesn't match the bottom. I was like, this is kind of. I think she's wearing yoga pants.
Yep.
Okay. Do you? I guess I'm wearing shorts in the wintertime. I shouldn't be judging, but it was just like, this is so weird. Yeah. There could have been an example of rambling. We just go down the path of yoga pants.
Whole other conversation.
Oh my God. Yeah. I will say, the last time I was in New York, the one I booked really cheap, it was December around Christmas, but it was 70 degrees up there.
Oh, wow.
And I was walking around in short and just a top like this.
Did you get judged?
What was weird is I stayed in the still undeveloped part of Harlem, in the rough part of Harlem.
Oh, so no, no judgment.
No, I got judgment from homeless people in lots of clothes, and because it did dip down to like 40, and I was still walking around like this, and what was it? One of the homeless dudes smacked his buddy. I heard this as I was walking past because I was wearing like a bright colored shirt, and he said, "Don't mess with him. He's crazy." and I almost went, "Yeah, you remember that when I'm coming home at 1 in the morning,
right?
Remember that when I'm coming home at 1 in the morning."
Too funny.
Oh, the gross thing, the skeevy thing about that was I was walking back late one night, and there were rats all over the sidewalk, big giant sidewalk, and I was just like, and I was staying in the lower level of a building. I was like, am I going to open that door and there's going to be rats there? So every time before I opened the door, I just took a breath. Like, I'm going to be grossed out. This could be the time. I'm going to be grossed out so bad.
Oh, yeah.
And the tall thing, so I have had no luck with Airbnb. Like,
really?
As many Airbnbs that I stayed in, I've not had one that was just a 10 out of 10.
Oh, I hate hearing that.
The one in
because it makes me think my time's coming.
Oh, no, I'm absorbing all the bad ones for you. Good. The one in New York, the shower head came to right below my nose.
Oh, no.
The one I stayed at in Chicago on that road trip, the ceiling was about at where my mouth is.
Oh, my gosh. What did you do?
I hit my head a lot, and I worried that I honestly, I woke up with a headache so bad one morning, I was like, I think I may have given myself a concussion.
Well, there probably wasn't enough air in there either if the ceiling was that low.
What was funny is it was a gorgeous space and spread out.
Really low?
Big.
Was it someomeone's basement?
Yeah. It was a basement he converted. The guy could not have been nicer. Him and his wife invited me into their kitchen to have breakfast one morning.
Oh, that's so sweet.
We watched the McGregor-Mayweather fight. Like it was crazy with all of his friends. He was just like,
oh, that's too funny. Come on up,
hang out. Here's a beer. I was like, my God, you're amazing. He gave a bottle of wine to everyone who stayed.
Wow.
Like he was the nicest guy in the world. I was like, but you can't be over like 6'2" and stay here.
Clearly.
I was like, and even 6'2", you're going to have to duck through the doorways.
Yeah. Oh.
The only place it was funny, the shower was huge. huge. Like the shower stall was the entire size of my bathroom.
It was
Like,
just short.
but it was the tallest place in there.
Oh, so you just hang out in the shower a lot?
No, but when I took a shower, I was like, this is so much better.
I'm just going to stay here forever.
Only having to, put my chin on my chest here. I sat down a lot and I walked.
I imagine so.
It was most comfortable bed I've ever slept in. Though. Like, it was crazy. The one I stayed at in Cleveland before, it got up to, this was in August in Cleveland. It got up to 86 in the in the apartment, and the ironic part was there was an in-wall air conditioning unit in the bedroom, but it had a 110 plug, and there was not a 110 plug in the room. I was like, "You
so
mother!"
Why'd they put it in?
I was like,
that is so bizarre.
Yeah, I was like, I can't plug this in. Like, I would literally just set this on a chair and plug it in. I can't do that. Because it doesn't have a 110 outlet, 110 outlet in here, and I fired off, and the last night I didn't even sleep. I just got up and drove home at like 4 in the morning.
Awful.
I got up and drove home. I was like, and I met up with a buddy in Cincinnati who works at the zoo, and he gave me a personal tour.
Oh, I'm so jealous of that.
But the funny part about that was I felt so wired because I was on no sleep. I was boiling at that point. And then walking around the zoo, I was like, I feel miserable because I was I could not cool down. But yeah, it was so fun. That personal tour. Now here you go. He is off. If you ever want to go, I'll tell you the guy to talk to.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I think he's about to come back downtown. A buddy of mine, Danny, amazing dude. But he was just like, anytime you want to come back and do the VIP tour, just let me know. He personally walked me around. I was like, this is stupid.
Those are good friends to have.
I wish I didn't feel miserable. So I have struck out on all the Airbnb.
Oh, that's awesome.
The one I stayed at in San Francisco, the first one, no air conditioning, middle of June. I used the same towel the entire 10 days.
Oh.
By day 6, it was still wet. Like, and it stank.
Awful.
And I kept texting the guys like, "Can I get another towel?" No, he wouldn't respond.
Condolences on your Airbnb experience.
I know. Again, I'm absorbing all the bad for
I hope so.
all everybody
no offense,
else.
you can take it.
All that to say, all that is Cadillac problems. All that is luxury problems. If I ever went to any of those places, I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm an idiot."
Yeah. My trick is before we go to Prague, I always ask people who. You have to so who goes to bed early and who likes it really cold at night? Like who can you just cannot get cold enough at night. And that's who I room with because I'm always exhausted from hurting people around all day. Yeah. And I like it freezing cold at night. Same. Again, no air conditioner. So I'm like, okay, when I open all the windows, which one of you isn't going to complain?
Yeah.
Because that's who's rooming with me.
Oh man. Yeah, that's me. That's that time in San Francisco, both of them, I stayed in an old hotel the first time I went out there. And same thing, it was cracking open every window, like no air conditioning. I was just like, this is dumb. Like, I'm dying. Like, they're like, well, it's only hot here like 1 month out of the year. I was like, that's enough. That's enough.
That's enough for an air conditioner right there.
Yeah. I feel you on that. With Prague, with it being about the same temperature here, but they have no
air conditioner.
This may be a stupid.
They're not big on the cold thing, so they, it's a.
But they do have heat.
They do have heat.
Okay.
They have radiators.
Oh, okay.
And like old radiators.
Yeah.
So you're lucky if you are staying in a place that has a well-kept radiator because they're. The cool thing about Prague is that they don't renovate. They really only restore.
Okay.
So they call it one of the most European cities you can visit because it's very authentic. It's, some places you travel and you look around and you could be anywhere in the U.S. It just looks very modernized. But Prague, you go and it's very authentic. That's why they have a lot of filming done there now. Like a lot of shows film around the Prague area and around Czech Republic because it just looks so authentic. And so it's very authentic European. They don't do air conditioners. They're not big on ice. You have to request ice. And usually if they see you're an American, they'll ask you, do you want ice?
Okay.
Like they expect you to want it. They buy their milk and things in a box off the counter. Like they're not big on the refrigeration. It's just not their culture. It's not what they're used to. It's just not them. So
I know. That's weird.
Anything cold, I've learned, you just kind of have to expect it's going to be a different situation.
They don't serve ice cream. They serve milkshakes.
They're not big on the ice cream. It's really weird. It's funny because you see those things in the very touristy areas because they're trying to, and you'll pass a restaurant in the touristy area and it will have a huge sign that says, we have air conditioning. Like, that's a big draw for tourists. So that's what restaurants use to entice you to come in. So.
Oh my God. So a lot of when it comes to food, here's what I imagine of Prague, because I'm an idiot. I imagine really hot, very like hearty meals.
That's exactly what it is.
Oh, crap.
It's very meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
It's so they do a lot of like almost like a Hungarian or Slovakian type food too. It's just all that like goulash and a lot of like heavy meat, gravy type dishes, and they serve it. A lot of it is served on dumplings. Obviously not what we consider dumplings. It's like basically like a round piece of bread, like a bit like a thick bread. Like it's very, very hearty. They do, because they are a very healthy nation, there are a lot of healthy options places you go. So I've taken vegetarians, I've taken people with gluten allergies, and we never have problems finding them food.
Okay.
Their health standards are very high there. I don't know if a lot of people know that their health grades by their government are so much higher in Europe than here. So the quality of the food you're getting is so much better. And so I always tell people, like, try everything. And go into a fast food place, go into a McDonald's or a Burger King and order a hamburger and taste the difference, because it will blow your mind. And it makes you wonder, why are we allowed to eat this crap in the United States?
Oh my God.
But their health grade is so much higher. Everything's fresh. Everything's like the highest quality over there.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of like your thick meat and potatoes. They eat a lot of different kind of meats. Like just really
it's seafood,
like hearty dishes.
Like
they do seafood. Yeah. They're on the river. So they do a lot of seafood. Over there you would shop like you would in any European city. You're not going to go get groceries for like a couple of weeks. You're going to go more to a farmer's market. You're going to go to the market down the corner. You're going to get things for like just a day or two at a time, essentially.
Are you trying to say I'm not going to buy a box of Fruit Loops the size of my torso?
No, I mean, you can get those things. They have, and it's so different. I love seeing all the different types of foods, and I stock up. There's like I'm a big mushroom soup person, and they have this like cup of soup, mushroom soup kind of thing that you can find over there. And I stock up and I bring a ton of that back. I bring a ton of their vitamin C back because, again, different health grades. And I swear their vitamin C is like so much stronger. So I stock up on really weird things. And then like just different candies and stuff, obviously, that you can get over there. And I always tell people too, when you're there, don't just eat Czech food, but also try to eat like some Asian food, because it's a lot better. You're closer to Asia. I know that sounds weird, but it's so good. Like, because they're having to use higher grade of food, like quality, and you're getting a more authentic version of the things you would normally eat here.
Do you think some of the eating more... I look at this when I look at like London or Paris. I wonder if some of that eating more fresh as opposed to buying 2 or 3 weeks worth of groceries is also like a physically limited space availability thing too.
Yes, for sure. If you walk in a Czech person's house, their refrigerator is not a full size refrigerator. It's like the smaller, not a mini fridge, but it's like half the size of our fridge. It's kind of the land of IKEA over there. Like everything, you walk in anyone's house and it's pretty much all IKEA for the most part. Yeah.
I just imagine like tall ceilings and small rooms.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's what you see a lot over there.
So I wonder if that's what kind of not started, but it was just a necessity thing.
For space. Yeah. I mean, and that's just kind of their way of life. We don't have all the different markets and like those pastry shops and stuff like that. It just kind of looks a little different over there, and it's more you kind of grab your breakfast and stuff on your way to work, but not as we would go through a fast food place.
Right.
They're going to go more to like a fresh bakery and maybe get something for a day or two type thing.
Or just eat a bowl of cereal because it's quick here.
That. With your warm milk that you take off the shelf.
That's grossing me out.
That's one of the hardest things. That and coffee are hard for me over there because they don't do like a drip coffee. They have coffee shops, but it's all latte. Like you're not really going to find a drip coffee anywhere. So it's all some form of an espresso type
so
latte.
The Canadians were right. Us Americans are weird.
We do. Yeah, they don't do drip coffee. And it's so funny. There's a coffee shop by where we stay, and they know when Americans come in that we're looking for coffee. And so they try to find you the closest thing to what they think you want is.
I would never think in like Czech Republic that like black coffee would be odd. Like
they just don't do the drip. They don't.
That's so weird.
They're not big on the drip coffee.
Huh. Oh God, I can't imagine a world and just drinking lattes. Like,
but there are a lot of coffee places though, so you can grab lattes on your way.
Oh my God.
Cappuccinos, flat whites.
I'll just take a latte to go, an Americano to go.
Yeah.
Can't believe I know those phrases. That comes from, so for Black Friday this year, we had the tree lighting ceremony downtown, and Adam couldn't work the coffee cart. So Amy and I worked the coffee cart.
Oh, yeah. So you learned all about the coffee.
I learned, what we learned that day is we vastly underestimated how many people wanted hot chocolate. Because we did it with steamed milk. So every hot chocolate.
I bet that was good.
It was amazing, but people would walk up and be like, we want 8 hot chocolates. And we were like, that is going to take about 20 minutes. Because we only have these small containers for steamed milk. And they're like, oh. I was like, yeah, we don't have a big thing with water and powder.
Thing coming out of a carafe up here.
I was like, no. To where Amy and I, once it let up a little bit, we were logisticizing the, like, how can we make this more efficient? Like in the future, we have to remember this in the future when we work on this. Americano, I didn't know what it was until I was at a conference in Cleveland last year, since we're still in 2018 and 2017. And I was like, do you just have black coffee? They were set up at the conference. They're like, no, I can make you an Americano. I was like, what is that? They're like, well, it's hot water and espresso. I was like, sounds like coffee to me.
You're like, that'll do.
Yep, that'll, okay, that's weird. Like but so the Czech Republic, I imagine it like most European cities where it has this giant, huge, packed in downtown.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has kind of the
center city.
The city center, which is kind of the old town square.
Yeah.
Which is a very touristy area. It's, kind of the things everyone wants to see. So I try to build in when we do this trip. That's one thing that I make sure that we do is visit a lot of the touristy things because it's in those places where you really get the city history. And so I feel like if you're going to be there, you're going to be helping people. It's important to know their history, why they are the way they are. The Czech people are a very solemn people. And when we're out throughout the week on public transportation, we stand out quite a bit because we're happy, we're laughing, we're talking. They're more solemn, that you don't see them talking. You don't see them really conversing. They won't meet your eye stare. Like they keep to themselves. They're very quiet people. And so I think it helps, especially when we first get there, to take people through all the touristy things because they include all that history and you find out and really get a good taste of the things that they've been through because it was only in 89 that they had the Velvet Revolution and got their freedom. So, that wasn't that long ago. So you're encountering people who live through that on a daily basis. It's only obviously like the really young people that didn't live through those things. So they're, they've been through a lot as a country and they've had a lot of people take over them in a short amount of period of time. They had like 3 different rules and the communism, which was really hard and tough for them. And so, you're on a daily basis on a train with someone who's been through that and they're just not very trusting. Like it's not that they're not a kind people, but they're just a more serious people. And it takes a while for them to warm up to you, especially if you're kind of over the top and laughing and carrying on. And that's just kind of not their thing. So I think it's helpful. But yeah, you get a lot of that in the Old Town Square, which is kind of that city center. It's where you find the astronomical clock, which is, I forget, it's one of only a few astronomical clocks that were ever built in the world, but it's this big, amazing astronomical clock. And the guy who built it, once he built it, they literally had his eyes removed so that he could not see to build another country one.
Wow.
Hitler did not want him to be able to build one for someone else. Okay. So they had
Another
his eyes removed. Yeah. So, but this astronomical clock is just, it's phenomenal. It's beautiful. Sadly, it's been under construction the past 2 times I've been there. So fortunately, the first time I went, it was not, but it's just really cool to see. You can climb to the top of the inside and kind of get just amazing views out of it.
Yeah.
It's also, you know, just a lot of like the buildings that have history. You have the theater where Mozart composed, and he lived across the street, and he would run back and forth. Don Giovanni, he composed there, and he would literally write a few pieces and run it across the street as they were performing it. And so you can kind of see where he was and that historic theater. And the cool thing is they do still perform it there from time to time. So you can actually see it in the theater where it was originally performed in. And there's all these really cool different stories and stuff, and there's a statue and just really cool history and stuff, and Charles University is down there, and you just get some really cool just views and cityscapes, all cobblestone, so choose your shoes very carefully. It's a hard day of walking to walk around Prague, I will say that, because it's, you know, you're not like on normal city streets or anything like that. So you're definitely on a lot of cobblestone. And, you know, again, you can take public transportation up to the castle, which is not very far from there. And there's the castle, which is the largest castle complex in the entire world. Yeah. And it's not the biggest castle, but castle complex, because it has all these cathedrals and stuff that are a part of the castle.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. You can do tours through all of that, of course. And I highly recommend spending a ton of time in that area because it's just amazing to see, really good views. There's also obviously Charles Bridge is a huge thing where you walk across the bridge and it's got all the different statues, and there's all this cool history. King Charles was into numerology, so it was built at a certain day, a certain time, a certain way, and it's kind of really interesting to get all that. So I really suggest guided tours when and if you can. And there's a cool company called Sandman Tours, and they do tours all across the world, but they do some in Prague, and they're free. You literally just tip, and they just ask that you tip whatever you think the tour was worth. Which is odd for Europe because they're a non-tipping region. Yeah, so you just tip whatever you thought it was worth. And the guides I have always found to be super amazing, super informative, very kind, and I highly recommend them, especially if you have a large group. It's a free tour, and you know, you just kind of pull money together and give a good tip. And we've learned who some of the better people are and who to request. And they won't let you request them, but it's kind of first come, first serve. So if you kind of pounce on them right when they start, you can get them. But they do amazing tours within the city. And I recommend all the touristy things there. There's monasteries that you can go to that I will tell you right now have the best beer that you will ever taste in your life. Really? Prague, known for its beer. We're like super, super big on the beer. You can get beer cheaper than water there. It's very much a fact. They have beer ATMs there now. Like that's their thing. They're all about the Pilsner. That's their thing. That's their bread and butter. And so that's how these monasteries used to make money. That's how they funded their monastery. They started making the Pilsner and the beer. Hilarious. And that's how Pilsner got to be a big thing there. And so they do tours of the monastery. And again, like so many just amazing views that you can get at the city because it's up on a mountain and you take public transportation up there. You don't have to walk. And so just really cool things that you can see. And then there are so many kind of out of the way things too. Like if you're on the Charles Bridge, a lot of people don't know. If you go down halfway, there's a Lennon wall. So they love John Lennon. And so there's a whole Lennon wall. I went the wrong way with the Lennon. I went Lenin. I was like, it's still there? That's not. No,
That's
John Lennon. And so there's
Okay.
this whole wall that's dedicated to him, and there's graffiti, and you can go buy spray paint and you can add your own graffiti.
That's
and once it
amazing.
gets full, they clear it off and start fresh. And people just are continuing to do this graffiti, and it's really cool to see. And there's like a John Lennon pub down there, and it's just a big tribute to him. They just loved him. And I think he never actually got to Prague, but they love him the same.
That's
There's all the
insane.
stuff.
Okay.
And then if you have time as like a day trip outside is Kutna Hora, which is this amazing little town that houses the Bone Church. So
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, there's a skull church or a
so
bone
there
church.
are,
Yes. I've heard of that.
ossuaries left in the
Yeah.
world, and this is one of them. And an ossuary is a bone church. You know, it's this religious place so it's an awful story of how it came to be. But like back in the day of the plague, if you had the plague, they would put you underground in this hole underground and just wait for you to die. And then they would go down every once in a while and collect all the remains and bring all the bones up and use them to decorate this church.
Yeah.
And so you're literally standing next to a chandelier made of human skulls.
Anyone listening needs to Google the Bone Church because it's insane.
It is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's when you're standing there, you're thinking it's like a train wreck. This is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But this is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Like it's just incredible. You look around, there are piles and piles and piles of bones and remains, and it's just a sight to see because and it's not just that they're just there, it's the way that they've decorated with them. Like different statues and chandeliers, and I mean it's just crazy. And there are other things in the town around there too. The Italians used to have a mint in that area, and so you can go and walk through and see where they minted their money, and you can walk through their little town hall, and it's just a cute little town that the ossuary just happens to be in.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a cool day trip, and I highly recommend it. If you're going to go to Prague, you can't not take the time to go there.
Yeah. That's what, I think it was the first person I ever heard talk about that was Joe Rogan on his podcast.
Oh, really?
I was like, and he pulled up pictures and stuff. I was like, what in the,
Yeah.
this looks like literally the scene from Goonies where they're playing
It
the
does.
bone piano.
It
like,
does. Yeah.
like, oh my
just,
God.
It's crazy. It's just, it's amazing to see though. It really is.
Oh, man. Okay.
And they let you walk down. They have not far from it is the huge other church, and you know they've got the place underground, and you can walk down underground where these people were kept, and it's literally just a hole in the ground and dirt walls, and it's where they were. I mean, no sunlight whatsoever, like no fresh air. Like they literally just kicked you down there and shut the door.
So do you ever? How many times have you been out there to that?
I've only been there once.
Okay.
Yeah, I've only been there once. It's hard with a large group to kind of find that time to get out there, but I'll probably add it in and go back this year.
My morbid humor would be like,
amazing
don't
for
tell people
to see.
where you're going and then just make them go there. And they'll be like,
so today we're just going to go on a trip, just a little trip. We're going to go see a different church.
Yeah. I've heard, just play dumb. I heard there's a nice church up
there's
here.
There's something out here.
Yeah.
It's definitely something to see. And you have to pay to go in. It's not an exorbitant amount. It's just, kind of your normal tourist
it's either
fee,
2 or 1.
It's not bad.
It's either 2 or 1. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Do a lot of people, so with the cobblestones and with, the healthier, is it kind of a good balance of walk and public transport? Do a lot of people choose to walk over public transport?
You see a lot of people walking. I think it's kind of half and half. I don't think a lot of tourists realize how easy the public transportation is. And because, especially in the U.S., outside of New York or somewhere, we're just not that accustomed to public transportation and using it the way that they use it. I mean, you see kids taking the bus to school. I mean, not like a school bus, but the actual public transportation bus to school, or they get on the tram by themselves and take it to go somewhere. We just, I think, aren't accustomed to it. So I don't think tourists realize or feel like it's safe enough to get on and use it. But it's there. It's easy. You do see a lot of people using the tram system to get to the castle just because it is a little bit farther away. And I think that's one of the things that I think a lot of like the touristy books and stuff like that tell you like, oh, get on this tram to go to the castle.
Okay.
So you see more people using it to get to the castle just because it's a little bit further up. But for the most part, I think you see people walking a lot.
Okay.
Uber. So the most I think, enveloping thing that anyone needs to know about Prague is it is insanely affordable. Everything is so cheap there. So even if you use an Uber to get somewhere, you're going to pay about half of what you would pay in the U.S. for an Uber.
Okay.
So like I could go from one side of town to the other here for like $20. In Prague, it's going to cost me like $4, like for American dollars.
Wow.
Everything is insanely cheap. They never switch to the euro. So they have their own denomination, the Czech crown. So the exchange rate has been overwhelmingly amazing for the past few years. And it's honestly kind of created a tourist problem for them because it's so cheap. They get so many tourists, but it's like usually around 22 to 1. So $22 to 1 Czech crown. Wow. And so you'll find that you can go and like if you're going to eat out, you could go get an appetizer, maybe like 3 or 4 beers, a meal and dessert. And you're never going to spend more than like $8 American because it's so incredibly affordable. Like you'll go in a store, buy a huge bag of groceries and walk out and realize you just spent like $5 American. And it's so insanely affordable.
Do they follow the no tipping thing at restaurants?
They do. They do the very, very low to no tipping. They
it's still so
usually 10% is really all you're kind of advised to do if you're going to do something.
Yeah.
I think they're used to tourists being over generous just because we don't know any better. Yeah. So they don't get offended or anything, but just as a general rule, it's just not the same there as it is here. So that's definitely something to know as a tourist. Your more touristy areas are going to be your normal tourist prices. But once you're out of that in the city, it's so cheap. It's so incredibly cheap.
Huh. And okay, so Pilsner beer...
Pilsner is their big beer. And the average Czech drinks 6 drinks a day. And that includes shots.
Well, I was going to ask.
They have Czech moonshine. But beer is their main thing. Beer is what they drink mainly. But they have like their own vodka, their own whiskey. They have
vodka.
A little bit of everything. Yeah. And they get a lot of imported like Swedish vodkas and stuff like that. So they have a lot of that. But I mean, beer is really their main thing. They start drinking beer with breakfast. Like if you go out to breakfast, they'll ask you what kind of beer you want, or they'll just assume you want a beer with your breakfast. It's just a common daily thing for them.
Can't get a black coffee, but you can get a beer at breakfast.
Yes, and it's cheap. It's so cheap. Yeah. You can get, like I said, you can get beer cheaper than water. Yeah. And if you go in the fall, they have something called borchak, and borchak is grape juice before the final fermentation stage to wine. Yeah. So they sell it in vats in the street, and you get it by the liter. It tastes like grape juice and has the full alcohol content of wine.
That's dangerous.
It is so dangerous, but it is amazing. So they have it in the fall. They have big festivals for it. It's like a big celebration because they only have it during a certain time. And you have to drink it within like a day because it will ferment and be bad. So it's like this tiny little window of fermentation. God. And so they have big celebrations. You see these vats, like big keg barrels all over the street, and you just stop and they sell it in liter bottles, and you have to leave it like cracked. It can't be sealed all the way. So you can't get it and bring it home, or you just have to tell people about it. Oh my God. Okay. You just have to experience it for yourself. And they have white and red, like the wines. Yeah. And so it's just that final stage and literally tastes just like grape juice, but like this really amazing sparkling kind of grape juice.
That's amazing.
But has the full alcohol content of wine.
Okay.
So gotta be careful if you drink that whole liter. And the funny thing is over there's no alcohol laws. You see, like you'll see kids drinking beer. You'll see people on public transportation drinking wine, and it's just not a big deal for them. They don't overindulge because it's so common for them. So I think people hear like, oh, people are probably drunk all the time. They're not, because it's part of their daily life. They just consume it in a normal way, and they're fine.
They don't need to do keg stands.
Yeah, they don't go out and get drunk and And they have interesting, if you are a drinker, they have very interesting bars and places to get out and explore. Like we've ran into one that was in the back of a gymnastics stadium. So it's literally like a gymnastics place where kids would do gymnastics, and it's like a back room that's a bar in the back of the gymnastics place. And they're very interesting people, the Czechs.
That's where the parents hang out.
And like we wondered, we're like, I bet that's what happened here. Like I bet that's exactly how this came to be. So
you talked about bringing back like the vitamin C and the candy, and the mushrooms surprised me. Like
mushroom soup.
But I'm just surprised you can get that through customs.
Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, small stuff like that, they don't really.
Okay.
It's just you can't bring back what is that, like produce and stuff like that. So you just kind of have to be careful.
I guess I just assumed mushroom soup. I was like, well, that's a vegetation, so would that be an issue? No. And the vitamin C fascinates me too, because that's a health and wellness
All
thing.
I'm saying is I have not gotten sick since I started taking the Czech vitamin C.
I just mean bringing it back fascinates me.
No, it's never been questioned or.
Was that in one of your many emails? Like, what can I take? What can I bring back?
Yes. And that scared me too the first time I went, because I had no idea what you could bring back. Yeah. And I would just ask about everything. Like, can I bring this back? Can I bring this back? Can I bring this back? And then you go back and you have to declare things. I'm like, do I need to declare this? Do I need? And they're like, no, just calm down. You're fine. What I was saying.
Because when you
don't have to.
That drink, I was like, so did you bring that? But if it only lasts a day, that's a bummer.
It's interesting. I always bring back. So they're really big on Christmas there. It's weird because they are one of the most atheistic countries that there are, which is why we do our mission trip there. And they aren't religious because they had so many different religions forced on them for so long.
Okay.
And so now they're just very kind of anti-everything. But they have really bizarre Christmas traditions, and they do celebrate Christmas. And so there's all these Christmas markets. And so if you're looking for like cool things to bring back, I always do like Christmas ornaments, because they're all like handmade things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's really cool. These markets are really great. I make sure the day before we leave, we actually go to like a farmer's market. It's just a normal farmer's market, but we've been able to get really cool pieces of pottery and just things that you wouldn't, obviously you're not going to find in a touristy kind of place or anything like that, but just really cool handcrafted items and different like pieces of woodwork and different syrups. They're really big on syrups there. Like, they have a water that they feel is very healthy and kind of cures all. And so they have like mineral waters and then like syrups that you're supposed to take every day for good health. And so you can get stuff like that there. And like
so
a fresh
kind
food
of like,
that's just amazing. And
am I using the term right? Homeopathic, like very.
Yes. They're very, very natural. So the Czechs have free health care. They have free governmental health care. So they don't have to pay for health care. And but it's really weird if you have an illness while you're there, or if you happen to live there and you need like Tylenol or nose spray or something, you go into this store that is a drugstore, but there's nothing out where you can get it. It's all behind a counter. So you have to go up and you tell this woman what's wrong with you, and she decides what you can have and what you can't have. So it's really different. That's definitely a different process than here. So, but that's how they do their drugstores and things like that over there. It's different. That's one of the things you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But with them being more of a anti-religion, would that be a way to put it? But I would assume they would have some amazing old churches.
Oh, they do. They have
gorgeous,
beautiful cathedrals.
Yeah.
And they have St. Vitus Cathedral, which is just beyond amazing, and it's in the castle, so you get it included with the castle tour. But there are other ones. There's some beautiful ones in the old town square, and then even outskirts areas, and they're always open, so you can always walk in any of them for the most part anytime. And St. Vitus Cathedral that's at the castle is actually still an active working cathedral. So you're not allowed in Sundays until noon. So after people have gone, and then you walk in, you're like, oh my gosh, people actually went to church here this morning. Like, it's crazy. You're in this huge cathedral. But yeah, just beautiful artwork and mosaics and
So
painting.
So the ones that are not active, are they just like historic sites?
They are,
Okay.
and they still, I think some of them still function. Some of them still function as churches, and some are just kind of considered a historical site. And
Okay.
you can walk in. Some let you know if you're not allowed to take photos.
Yeah.
Some you're fine. And you just get to walk through and see them, and they all have like the beautiful organs that are some still working, some not, and you can just walk through a lot of these, and they're just beautiful. I mean, it's just the paintings that are in them alone on the walls and the murals, and it's just beautiful to see.
Man, yeah. I can imagine. Like, that's all I can say is I can imagine that they would be insane.
And it, like I said, like it is truly just such an authentic European place to visit. And I always tell people, if you really want a good like trip where you can go and see things and that's super affordable, like go to Prague, because it has all those authentic cathedrals and buildings, and most everywhere is open for you to walk in. I mean, even the symphony halls and stuff like that, as long as there's not a concert going on, you can still walk in and look around.
Yeah.
And, like, the buildings are just spectacular, and it's so affordable, like I said, to be there, that really your only cost is just getting there. So if you can find a cheap ticket, I always tell people go to Prague.
Scott's Cheap Flights.
Yep, Scott's Cheap Flights. I see them on there from time to time.
Unofficial sponsor of Ramblin' Man.
Prague is hard to catch cheap flights on. That's the only problem. But there have been some lately for like, I've seen some recently for like $600 and $700, which is a good deal for Prague round trip.
Yeah.
But off season, you might end up paying around like $1,600.
Wow. Okay.
But that's really your main cost.
So when you go and it's a mission trip, are you all helping people on the outskirts, or are you spreading the word? Like, what is...
We do both. So I always tell people, I think when people envision mission trip, they see you're like out in a field digging ditches or building a church
school.
or school or something like that. So this one's a little different, just because of the nature of the trip. I always tell people it's just a little more relational. Like, we don't go and minister. We really just go to kind of build relationship with people. So we work at two different places in Prague. One is the English-speaking United Methodist Church of Prague. And so we're connected to them. Obviously, my church, Cokesbury, is Methodist, and so they're connected to them that way. And the couple that's there are actually from this area, so we know them really well.
Okay.
And so when we work at the church, it's really just whatever the need is. And so sometimes it's an English camp. So when in the Czech Republic, through the school system, you get one English class. So they do know some English, but it's not like a very conversational English.
Right.
So they love to just sit and just talk, and they'll ask you a lot of questions about slang. Like, what does this mean? Like, is it okay to say this? And a lot of them work online for international type companies. And so they hear people say things and they're not sure if it's a joke or if it's sarcasm or, so they have a lot of questions about kind of our day-to-day English.
Yeah.
Much like I think anybody learning Spanish, you get a very formal version, but that's not like your everyday language. So they have a lot of questions. And so we'll just sit and talk to them. We'll bake them, usually American food. Last year we did Kraft mac and cheese, which was like a big hit. Or we'll do like an apple pie or pumpkin pie because they don't have that kind of stuff over there, and they'll make us like an apple strudel or something like that.
Yeah.
And we'll just sit and eat and talk, and it's really more about just building relationship. And physically for the church, it's kind of anything that they need. Last year we helped them soundproof their walls, so we took like a tech guy with us, and he helped kind of reset up their tech system. And we hung sound panels, and because like you said, like tall ceilings, old authentic building, and the acoustics are awful. So we set up sound panels and just invested a lot of money into kind of helping soundproof the sanctuary a little bit better, and made a trip out to IKEA, got some kids furniture, set up a kids area in the back, and put down carpet. Because again, there's no carpet anywhere because it's, you're in your old authentic European building. And so we just added carpet and did that. Last year when we went, they had found there's a tunnel under the church where during the war they used to hide people and things. And so we cleaned that out. They found like church records from the 1800s, like really expensive like chandeliers and like things that were hidden down there to protect it from the communist takeover. And so
Yeah.
they dug all that stuff out, and then we went down and cleaned up the area because it actually leads to this really large room, and they thought they could use the room for space for kids or something. And so we cleaned that out, and that was probably the most work we've done there because we literally scrub bricks in this tunnel for like hours and hours every day. And it's that, or just organizing. They have a little room where they do like coffee or lunches after church sometimes, and just cleaning, organizing, whatever needs to be done around the church. And just kind of like hanging out with the people that go there because they're not around other Americans a lot. So they just like to come and talk and catch up. And it's really a little bit more relational. And so the other place we work, we kind of split our time half and half.
Yeah.
It's a shelter that's in an area that's probably about not quite an hour outside of Prague. But it's a shelter for Roma families. And so the Roma families are the gypsy families.
Okay.
Who have migrated down and are very shunned. So we in the U.S. have been taught one thing about gypsies, and I think it's like from the reality shows, and they're over the top, they're outrageous, they're nomadic, they cause trouble, and that's kind of the opinion that the Czechs have of them as well. They're known for being very nomadic and just kind of being unruly and not really wanting to abide by anybody's rules, and so the Czechs really kind of shun them, and they have a hard time getting jobs, getting housing. Sometimes they won't let their kids go to school. So they're very shunned in the community, and there are families who just want to create a life. They've migrated down. They used to live in these gypsy camps that are up in Slovakia and different areas, and they're just basically just trying to establish a life and have a normal family life there. And they have a hard time doing that because they're not able to get work or find housing or get their kids in school. And so this is a shelter that was set up ages and ages ago and is still running. And they have two separate buildings, one that houses families and their kids and one for single mothers and their kids.
Okay.
And so we go, and there it's anything from, they always have families kind of in transition, some that are leaving, some that are coming in. And so a lot of times there it's a little more manual labor, like painting or helping set up furniture.
Yeah.
This last time we were there, a local company had donated a play set out back, like a wooden play set. So we stain that. So it's just kind of, again, whatever their current needs are. And then we usually do that for a couple hours, and then we play with the kids for a couple hours. So their kids, again, like they're really shunned, have a hard time getting in schools, making friends. Like people don't want anything to do with them. So they love any kind of attention. We like play with them. If it's nice, we'll play ball outside. If it's cold or yucky outside, they have a room where they have therapists that come and work with the families, and it's filled with toys and stuff like that. So we'll play with them in there. And sometimes they speak English, sometimes they don't. Some of them speak Czech, some of them speak Slovakia, some of them speak the Roma language. And so, but they understand that somebody just wants to get on the floor and play Legos with them. We have learned that Legos is a very, very international thing. So they actually have a huge Lego factory in the Czech Republic. Yeah. It's this huge, massive Lego factory. So Legos are big there. So we get down on the floor and play with them. And for them, they love that. They love having people pay attention to them. And like, they just want to hug on you and like play with you. And so we do that with them. And we just kind of split our time in between the two places. The shelter is, they used to have private funding, but now they're all publicly funding. So I know they're currently struggling. One of their buildings, and they're not in the best shape. Like their buildings really by U.S. standards would have been condemned a while back ago.
Oh, really?
But yeah, they're okay. They're decent structures, but they're not in the, again, it's publicly funded. They do what they can. And the families are required to, help out and keep things clean and stuff like that. But they kind of have to keep up all the maintenance and things like that. So it's all kind of dependent on their funding. And they actually did have to, like, their building that's for their single mothers and kids is literally like falling apart. So they're purchasing these, like what we would call a tiny house. They're kind of like these tin pods that they're purchasing to put the mothers in. So I know that's what they're currently raising money for. And so we just kind of help in any way we can. And then when we come back throughout the year, try to like give, from time to time to them too. So
Now I have multiple questions at once.
Okay.
I still have more questions. Are you okay?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It sounds like, is there only one trip a year, or
There's one trip a year right now.
Okay.
So we've kind of been growing every year. And at some point, I think if we reach the point where we have so many people that go, we will either take everyone and split the work where half the people stay in one place the whole time, and some people, since we go to two places, or in splitting it into two trips.
Okay.
The trip we do now actually runs over Labor Day, and we used to go just a little bit later. But there's two reasonings. One is that we have a lot of people that go that work full time, and that's less time they have to take off work because most people get off for the Labor Day holiday.
Yeah.
So we found that to be a little bit helpful for that. And the other is that we actually stay in dorms over there. So they're attached to the church, and they're really nice, like what college dorms would look like. We have access to kitchens. We have access to laundry. They're perfect for us. And are you ready for this? An entire $11 a night per person. So,
oh no, that's kind of steep. That's kind of steep.
Is it above your budget?
Yeah.
So we love staying there.
$11.
Yes, because it's so affordable. We love staying there. It's very clean. It's 2 to a room, so you're not like on top of each other in a space. And, very, like I said, they're right there at the church, so access is amazing. And there's a bus that stops right in front of it, so that's what we use to get out to the shelter, and it's just really perfect. But we have to get there before the students do to go back to school. So that timing is kind of perfect. It's right before the students come back, and it just always seems to work out that there's enough space for us, and it's perfect. So that's why we kind of do that time of year.
And you've mentioned a time or two about bringing in someone to specifically help with a certain aspect, like the sound guy.
Yeah. So from time to time, if we're getting ready to go, so like now, we've just had the people that were over there have actually just now come back to the U.S. and another couple has gone.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of waiting for them to get acclimated, and we kind of start to look at a couple months before, like what they think the needs might be. And sometimes if it's something specific, like this past year we went, and there weren't any plans to take a tech person or anything, but we kind of realized that, hey, right before you get here, we're going to have all these sound panels delivered, and it would be nice if you happen to have somebody that would want to come. And so it just kind of worked out that the tech guy at Cokesbury was free. He was interested, and was able to raise money to go super quick. And so we took him, and he ended up being super valuable to that. And I always kind of do that. Like I'll start asking a couple months ahead of time, like what do you kind of think you'll need help with? Like, is there anything specific? And if there is, then I kind of try to find someone that might be interested in going that can do that. Otherwise it's just a very general, and we just kind of tell people like, these are the things we've done in the past. This is what we might be doing while we're there, and it can always change, but you're never going to be asked to do anything outside of your means. Like I'm never going to ask you to climb up the side of a house and pull something down or.
Well, I was curious, like with those buildings and stuff, would it be, so if you have a problem like that, would you specifically target and be like, maybe we need to take a contractor this next time?
Yeah. And we have actually had a contractor go with us before, and he was just like, stunned at the the situation. But and it just depends on like if I bring this kind of a person, could they actually do those things? Like it just all kind of depends on how it lines up and what it looks like we might be able to do if there, and we all kind of do the same thing, but if there is something more general or more suited to someone who might be a little bit older and not want to be on public transportation all day and go around. Like, do you have something do you have some organizing that you could have done in this room, or is there anything we can help you make? Or, last year we had some downtime, and the wife that was over there said, what, I could really use like some printouts of coloring sheets, like for whatever. So, that's something we could just jump on our laptop and do. And, it really just kind of depends on how we can align the needs. This year we looked out with being able to take a tech person because we got so much done, and we actually set it up now where we can control their tech stuff from back here too. So like if they're having issues, he can log in over here and see what might be causing the problem, and we're longer able to get all that set up. So
There's
it
somebody.
just depends.
Well, and there's somebody I met in a creative group that she leads a mission trip that I'm trying to remember what all they did. But I remember one aspect was she's a wedding photographer, and one aspect was going over there and finding a nonprofit or two and taking photos.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm interested in that because I can teach them how to use social media for fundraising. And I don't think I got her to understand how impactful that could be. So I ended up not getting to go to I was like, no, I want to do that. Like,
and we run into that a lot with the shelter too, because they're very small staff.
Yeah.
And they do an okay job with social media, but I think things like that are things that they can always use, like
or good photography or video or something.
Photos are powerful. They really paint the picture for people who are in different places of what their situation really is, and that's one thing. We do take a woman who takes really good pictures, but they're not necessarily. They're more so to document the trip, more so than like this would be super helpful for them to be able to get these pictures to use in this way, and they're kind of like that too. They have like a somewhat decent website. They do what they can, and they do an okay job for what they have. But there are definitely areas that we could probably, help them out in ways like that probably haven't even been thought of or put together.
What is like the internet situation over there? Is it super slow?
No,
or
it's decent.
It is.
It is decent. And that's the other thing too. I tell people, because I've had people who are like, oh my gosh, I want to go, but I can't be away from my husband for that many days or my wife for that many days. Like, we're always around Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And our cell phones always work there.
Okay.
I'm on Verizon. They have the amazing travel pass. I use it when I'm not on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But they're very modernized. They have Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere we go. The shelter we work at has Wi-Fi. So we're always connected, and it's decent. It's fairly fast. And the only thing is you can't go there and watch Netflix because you have to watch Czech Netflix. It's like, I think people assume that the internet is the internet, but it's the Czech internet. No. But it'll get you the connectivity that you need in life, but it's not gonna get you some of the things you're used to getting to.
Well, I was gonna say with that, it's you go over there and going back a step. You go over there, you show them how to set up Dropbox.
Right.
You take a ton of photos, you dump them in Dropbox, and they have them. You can label them. You can tag them. You can do whatever you need. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, here's a dumb question. What is the size of the people? Like, do you stand out over there? Or
I don't. So it's interesting because I've actually had several people while we're over there look at me and ask me, are you Czech? So I have a lot of my grandmother's features. So I think that I might look a little bit more like them than maybe somebody going with me might look, I guess.
Okay.
But they're, I don't know. They just look normal. There's not much diversity. You don't see very much diversity among the Czechs, which is why the Romas stand out to them a lot. But they, if I had to say anything, it's more of like what you would maybe think of like a Russian feature or Scandinavian type feature.
I don't even mean that. I mean like the height. Okay, they are. Okay.
A lot of their women are very tall. It's that very kind of stout build. But yeah, they're a taller people, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's always when I worked at PetSafe. Some of the engineers were trying to talk the higher ups and send me to China just because they wanted to go along and watch what would happen. Because one of the guys was like 6'3", David was 6'3" or so, and he was like, "They look at me funny.
Yeah,
I want to go with you." I was like, they would all freak out. I was like, my problem is the way you all talk about it. I can't sleep anywhere there.
Yeah,
yeah.
I can imagine that would be a big problem.
Also, the long flight over there. I was like, I would murder every one of you.
Yep.
It's like you better be hooking me up with first class.
Yeah, you'd definitely have to invest on that one.
Yeah, I've got some friends in Australia. It's the same thing. They're like, you need to come visit us. I was like, you need to hook a brother up with some first class, and then I'll come down there. The 23-hour flight.
I can't even.
Yeah.
I can't even think about that one.
Yeah, that's
a long time on a plane. Oof.
But they are bigger people. Yeah, that is a weird thing.
Like taller people. People always ask me like what they look like. They look like us really. They're they might be a little taller than I think probably the average American. I think it's just that build over there. They're definitely a little bit more stout of a people.
I would go somewhere where I fit in more. I don't know what that's.
There you go.
I don't know what that's like. That would be amazing. This is another weird question. Pets. Like, do a lot of people have pets?
They're big on dogs over there.
Okay.
Like, you'll see dogs in restaurants. Like, oh yeah, they're big on their pets. You'll see. The weird thing is, you'll see dogs get on public transportation by themselves and go somewhere.
Really?
They know where to get on. They know where to get off. It's really weird.
Okay.
But yeah, you'll see people bring their dogs in restaurants and stuff. It's very open door policy where pets are concerned.
Yeah.
But yeah, you see a lot of dogs.
Okay. I wasn't sure, if that was with the area and the region or anything, if that was if it was more dogs, more cats. Like, I know some places it's a little bit more cats because it's more spread out or something to where.
No, we see a lot of dogs.
Okay. I only have 2 more, I swear. Are you able to... This is a 2-parter.
Okay.
Are you able to have downtime and fun, and are you able on your own to splinter off from the group and do your own thing?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So
and do you make sure to make time to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
So I build in purposefully all of the tourist things that one would do in Prague to the trip.
Yeah.
So, and it's all included, like anything that is going to cost anything is built into the price of the trip. So, the castle tour, we do Old Town Square, New Town Square. We do the tour of the Old Town Square and the Jewish Quarter, which the Jewish Quarter is a whole other story on its own, really. And, they have Tetrazine, which is the Jewish camp where Hitler sent all the Jewish people, which, again, that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah,
but, so there are things like that. And then also the Charles Bridge. And I have a person who is well versed and a historian in Czech culture that actually goes with us on a lot of that. So if we're not getting a tour, we have someone with us that knows anything that anyone would ever know about those places.
Yeah.
So you do get all of the tourist things that you would do in Prague, regardless of the trip. And then we're usually done after dinner at night. And I always tell people, you're an adult. You know what time we have to be at work the next morning. Everyone has keys. Like, do what you want to do. And I have people that at the end of the day, they're tired, they're done, they go to bed. And then I have people that go out and explore. It may be the only time they're ever going to be out of the country or in Prague or, and I don't want them to feel like they can't get out and do those things. Prague is an extremely safe city. Like, they tell tourists, like, if you see something down a back alley, like, go and explore because it's super safe. Public transportation is super safe. Public transportation runs until like late into the night. And picks up again early in the morning. So I always tell people, like, if there are things that you see, please feel like you can go and do that. Like, don't be like, oh, well, whatever. Like,
don't be afraid.
Time, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the trip, too, the day before we leave, I build in free shopping time. So we go back down to the square, and people, it's like a couple hours, and you're welcome to go do whatever you want to do. Like, if you would rather go see something or go into like one of the cathedrals down there that we didn't go in, or if you want to shop and get souvenirs, like that sort of thing, that's a great area for a little bit of everything. So we go back down into that area, and I just kind of set everybody free, and then we just meet back up. And so I want people to not feel so like trapped into a scheduled trip, but like they have some freedom, because nobody's, I have some people that go back year after year, but for some people, like, that's their big trip. Like, they may not go anywhere else. They may not do anything else like that ever in life. So I want them to be able to explore and to get things that they see that they want, and to have some freedom to do that.
So we've talked a little bit about the cheapness of it all.
Yes.
So my bigger question is, with this going through the church and with this being a mission trip, how does all that work fiscally? So
the trip itself, I can't remember the exact price I set for this year, but because it is so insanely affordable, it's never more than $500 for the trip.
Even with flight and everything?
No, that's not included.
Okay.
So the bulk of the trip price usually comes in the price of the flight. So
Okay.
what we do is like this time of year, like we've literally already started recruiting for
Okay.
this year. And so we'll kind of keep recruiting for the next couple months. And the reason we do that is so that we can get commitments and deposits really early. And that allows me to keep an eye on cheaper flights. So if something
Okay.
pops up randomly on Scotch Cheap's flights and I have commitments and deposits, the church will front me the money to go ahead and buy plane tickets.
Gotcha.
So as long as I have, and we do like $100 deposit. So as long as I have $100 deposit from somebody, they'll let me go ahead and buy the ticket.
Okay.
So we do that. We also have scholarships. Like if somebody wants to go and they're like, I just cannot afford that.
Right.
We have like money available through the church. We do different fundraisers that some of the money throughout the year goes to that price. We have one of our pastors is like really well connected with people who just like to donate and to give money for that sort of thing. And so we've never had somebody who really wanted to be able to go and just couldn't afford it and had to tell them, no, I'm sorry, you couldn't go. So if somebody really wants to go, we'll help them. They just have to, we have some people who do fundraising on their own. And as long as you show us some kind of effort, like you're trying to raise money, then we're more than willing to chip in and help people get there. So
for like this one, the $500 covers your
it's room,
rent.
board. It's every meal except for breakfast.
Yeah.
It's room and board. It's ticket to the castle. It's,
the
transportation pass.
the month pass.
Yeah, it's just any expense that you would incur outside of breakfast, really. So once you're there, the only thing that you are responsible for financially is breakfast.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, if we're out and about and we see something that we want to do and it has a ticket price, we'll ask, like, does everyone want to go? And do you want to pay? If not, then, or, if you want to go and these people don't, then you go and we'll, do something else at the same time. Or, it's, again, just so cheap once you're there.
Okay.
It's just that stupid plane ticket.
Yeah.
So, and the good thing is sometimes when you have larger groups, it's actually easier to find. There are companies that help find cheaper flights for mission trips. So if you have like a certain amount of people for a certain time, you can email them and they'll start digging in and they'll try to find like group rates and find cheaper tickets. So that's why we try to get ahead of it really early and get commitments and deposits so that a lot of times during the summer, there are some random cheap flights that pop up for Prague. So it's just catching them and it's being able to like have that commitment at the same time you have the cheap flight. So
Well, I figured that would be kind of a stopping point for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I realize like it's hard for people, and that's why we do the scholarships, because we never want somebody to be like really interested and really want to go and give back in that way and to have to be like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can't afford.
You can't afford it. You can't go. So, and again, like it's just that flight price. So the first year I went, our flight was $600.
Okay.
And then last year it was like $1,500. So it's
all
in the flight. Like the very first year, the entire trip didn't cost me more than $1,000. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's all in the flight.
$1,500.
Yes,
wow.
It's all in the flight.
That's killer.
And again, when the flight goes up like that much, then the church steps in and it's like, do you need help? Like you've committed. We know that we initially said it could be between here and here and it's way up here. Like, do you need help? And so they're really supportive and helping people, like, even if it's like, well, I thought the flight was going to be $1,000. I was not expecting that. We'll cover it and take care of it. And so we definitely.
And do you all kind of limit how many people? I mean, do you? No,
I don't. I do require an application just so that we can kind of get to know somebody.
But you have a minimum or something.
Just see. I think we've always said that no less than 5.
Okay.
We kind of struggled with that the first year. I think we ended up with 6. But ever since then, I've had a lot more people interested. Okay. And you always get a ton of people interested at first, and then end up with like half that actually goes. Yeah. So. It's a very glamorous looking trip, and I think people are all in, and then when it comes time to like pay and make decisions and leave your family for a week, then that's when a lot of people fall off. But like I said, we take people in their, like, I've had everybody from like 20s to 70s to everybody in between. And, we do an application just so that we can kind of check in everybody and just make sure that, people, and, you get people that think it's a vacation, people that think like, oh, I'm just going to go hang out in Prague for a week. And don't really realize like, you're also going to have to paint some walls and play with some kids.
Yeah.
And I have people that go and they're like, oh, I really want to go and do this, but I'm just really not kid friendly. And I'm like, well, that's part of this trip.
Yeah,
like, can you just go kick a soccer ball around for a couple days?
Yeah.
Like, no one's asking you to babysit. Like,
No.
but can you color?
Yeah.
Like, how are you with the Legos? Like, but I have had people who just, that's why they end up not going, because they just aren't kid friendly or, so.
How, I don't think we answered this. How long is the trip?
This year it's August 30th through September 8th. So we leave on a Friday, which gets you
And that's
there
August
on a Saturday.
30th.
And then we leave the following Saturday.
So that includes travel time.
Yes,
August 30th
yes.
and then come back September
we
8th.
leave. I try to get us on the flight that gets you there first thing in the morning, because it seems to be the most adaptable to the time change, which is a 6-hour difference.
Okay.
And so then we used to come back on the Sunday, but I have a lot of people that have to go back to work on Monday, me being one of them. And so it was just a lot. So we learned last year that coming back on the Saturday and giving everybody kind of a day to reacclimate and get the jet lag kicking was really helpful. So we do that now.
8 days. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You gonna come? You come to Prague?
We'll leave that open-ended on here. You don't know. Thank you for doing this.
Of course.